takes us one by one.
What happened in the last case you worked with Navarro?
That was good. Until it wasn't. Never too late.
True Detective is returning to Crave for its fourth go-round. It's titled Night Country this time, and this season is set in a fictional town in Alaska after several men disappear from a research station. Joining us live here on Breakfast this morning, one of the stars of the show, actor Anna Lamb. Anna, great to meet you. Thanks for coming in this morning.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this. I mean, this show, True Detective, kind of already took on sort of legendary status in its earlier seasons. So what's it like as an actor to sign on to a show that already has a sort of really established cast of characters, etc.? People associate, you know, Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, etc. with it. When you got the opportunity, what goes through your mind as an actor?
Well, I mean, I just unbelievably excited, but the level of expectation and the pressure, and you know, there's already a massive fan base and a very dedicated fan base to the show. So it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm stepping into a bit of a territory that I've never been in before. And of course, I remember getting the call that I had, you know, gotten the role, and it was like, all right, and you'll have some scenes with Jodie Foster, and I was like, yeah. Oh my God. But, you know, we had gotten to Iceland and we had done our table read, and within like 10 minutes, all of those nerves sort of fell away, and the crew that we had, Issa Lopez, the director, so welcoming and sweet and thoughtful. As much as that pressure was like, okay, we're doing something that's so different from the first season, but there's still that expectation. It felt like we had the perfect environment to do it and to face that fear.
So for people who haven't seen, I caught the first episode last night, so people unfamiliar with your character, tell them a bit about you, because you're married to a cop on the show. But why don't you talk a little bit more about, you know, who you are in the show?
Yeah, so I play the role of Kayla. I'm the wife to Peter Pryor, who's one of the young detectives that Danvers, played by Jodie Foster, keeps on a very short leash and kind of sends him to do all the things that she maybe doesn't want to stick her hands into. Kayla's a very strong Inuk woman. She's somebody who very fiercely protects her family and wants the best for her family, and is just desperately trying to get her husband's attention and to get him to be present in their relationship.
Yeah, I saw when you throw the cell phone away or try to get him not to answer the call after 6 o'clock, etc. You can definitely see that. You alluded to Jodie Foster and doing a table read and like that. And I mean, let's talk about that. Jodie Foster is a Hollywood legend. What was she like to work with? I mean, you sort of said that after about 10 minutes, things went away. I'm curious how, as an actor, you approach someone with that kind of, you know, resume, as it were, almost.
I mean, I think the wonderful thing about Jodie and what I admire so much is just like, for a lack of a better word, how chill she is. She, you know, when she walks into a room, you notice her, and she has this presence that's so powerful and so beautiful, but she doesn't take herself too seriously. She loves to joke around. So to have her kind of lead the ship of the cast and to kind of really set the tone of what set would be like was fantastic, because she, you know, takes her work very seriously, but she gives grace to herself and to other actors, which I found so beautiful. And you know, she's somebody that when I was leaving set, I left with no shortage of inspiration.
That's amazing. That must help for your career going forward. And you talk about your character being a strong Inuk woman. You yourself are as well. What's that like to be able to portray something that's so representative of you on screen in something of this scope and size?
Absolutely. I mean, when I had first read Kayla and the relationship that she was experiencing and kind of trying to figure out what her life experience might have been, what are her, you know, what is her instinct and what does she want from herself and her relationship. And it was really beautiful because the character was written in such a way that I kind of looked around in my own life and I was like, I know so many Kaylas. I know so many Inuit women that are holding it down for their families, who are speaking their minds, who are, you know, going toe-to-toe with people that they think are standing in the way of what is best for themselves and their families. So it was a really beautiful and a very accurate representation of so many Inuit women that I admire. And it was an honor to play her. It was an honor to play a strong Inuk woman character on such a platform like True Detective, like on HBO.
No kidding. It's pretty significant. Okay, Anna Lamb, it's really been a pleasure to meet you. Good luck with this. Nice to meet you. And can't wait to see where your character goes on True Detective Night Country this season. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
All right, excitement is definitely building. The NHL All-Star Game's almost here, and as part of the festivities, several Toronto Maple Leafs alumni are collaborating with local brands to celebrate the history of black hockey on the team. One of those former players is Mark Fraser. Joins us live here on the couch at CP24 Breakfast. Mark, so good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for being here. Let's just quickly talk about All-Star Weekend happening in Toronto. You know, you have a role with the Leafs organization. You were just saying to me, this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Absolutely. No, we're very fortunate. I mean, the city, the franchise, the organization, and certainly myself to be a part of this. It's momentous. It's definitely not every year you get to host an all-star game, so we're very privileged and excited. Yeah,
and there's going to be some changes to the game this year, but let's talk about why you're here as well, sort of the initiative that you're talking about, because the sad reality is that racism still exists in hockey. It's something that you experience in your playing career, but it's something you're trying to turn around, reverse, improve on currently. So why don't you talk about your career and then talk a bit about where things are going and how the game and the issue is evolving.
Certainly. I mean, again, I was very fortunate to be able to play the game, play at the highest level for many years. And a lot of the experiences and moments were great, but it definitely, you know, being racialized, being a black hockey player, I think there's a lot of things you may experience that not everyone's aware of. I'm now in a position in the front office with the Maple Leafs and able to change some of that, able to bring an awareness to those perspectives, to those experiences, and shine a little bit of a light on a growing racialized demographic that really loves this game, but might not always see themselves represented in the game. So it's important for us to be able to look at the different perspectives as we try to grow the beautiful sport.
Right. And speaking of perspectives, Mark, do you think, is this a fan issue? Is this a player issue? Is this a coach issue? Or is this just an all-encompassing?
It's an all-encompassing issue. Again, it's a lot of, we don't always know what we don't know. And it's not just from a fan, an ownership, or anything in between perspective. It's, there's just different stakeholders, different members, different participants who love this game but aren't always represented. Deep histories perhaps in the game, but are still represented in a minute way. I think it's just an education and an awareness that needs to grow. It's no particular individual or group of individuals who are certainly, responsible. I think it's more of an institutionalized thing. We just need to be aware that it exists.
So with that in mind, Mark, the institutionalized nature of it, which makes it difficult, and it's not just hockey, right? It permeates our culture, sadly, here. How is it incrementally that you turn it around, or how can you perhaps speed it up? How can we make things better for the players coming up or people even playing right now?
Good question. And unfortunately, it is incremental. We feel, you know, and like you said, similar in society, we have the ability, perhaps, we have the knowledge, we have the resources to change things tomorrow, but we just also know that's not going to happen. Change does sometimes come slowly, and I have to understand in my position that this isn't going to be a tomorrow or a one-year thing. This is a long journey that we're on. Again, it's back to an education and trying to just share a perspective and break down some bias and open up some new observation and experience that very much is already existing in our game, but let's just recognize it a bit more. We care a lot for each other in this sport already. Let's just peel back some of those layers and understand what else exists.
It's such an important conversation and an important, journey as well. Let's talk about these jerseys as well. And I'm going to hold them up because it's a little hard to see perhaps on camera because they are all black jerseys. So as I hold this up, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're looking at and what these sort of display and are?
We're very excited about this. It's a retail capsule that we're now releasing and tied into Black History Month, but also All-Star. And it's a collaboration with a local black designer, very prominent designer here in the city, Adrian Atchison, and his company, Two Black Guys, and seeing it on the name bar here. And this jersey, for us, it's a way to connect, again, to that diverse demographic, a black community that myself represents in the game, deep-rooted history in the game. The number 8 represents the 8 black alumni who have played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this isn't just, it's a bit of an awareness and representation to let this community see themselves in the Toronto Maple Leafs, iconic Toronto Maple Leafs brand, but it's also a celebration. We've had some tough experiences. We've had some things that, you know, for many may be invisible barriers that we've had to navigate through. But this capsule and this campaign for us is also very much a celebration of black excellence that exists in hockey and in the city of Toronto.
And personally for you, Mark, I can see your face lighting up as you're talking about this. What does it mean to you? The fact that not only that this conversation is happening, but you're so closely connected and involved with this.
Honestly, it means a lot. I'm someone, you know, the more than an athlete sort of slogan, I've always been interested in fashion and creative design and artistic integrity. And we see that here in this capsule. It's, there's a lot of different unique ways, and I get to do this in my job, to find touch points and how we can connect to different demographics who already love our game and perhaps love our brand with the Maple Leafs. It's, you know, whether it be from ticketing, food and beverage, or in this situation, a retail capsule. And I think if this was a young me looking at this and being able to, we can't always see ourselves representing the game. Yeah. And this is a way that, a younger version of myself or some of these players can look up and see, I see myself in that brand now. I see myself with the Maple Leafs.
It's got to feel pretty amazing to be a role model like that, Mark Fraser. Pleasure meeting you. Good luck with this. Thanks so much for the time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Good to chat with you. Well, Mayor Olivia Chow is readying her first budget. She's going to present it tomorrow at City Hall. Chow, though, has plenty of tough decisions to make as she's trying to tackle a $1.8 billion budget shortfall this year alone. A proposed property tax hike of more than 10% on the table, partially couched with Mayor Chow saying it wouldn't be as high for some buildings in order to help renters. Meanwhile, Toronto Police also taking issue with how much its budget is expected to increase. And the city is also still trying to deal with an influx of asylum seekers, compounding issues within the shelter system.
We do live in a democracy. There's something very special about this city, that after 40,000+ people, well, actually close to 50, because of if you add in the deputations and all of the folks before the holidays, participating, there are a lot of engagement. The city government is the closest to the people, which is why you see this kind of participation, passion, and conversation and negotiation, which is happening. I welcome it.
All right, that's the mayor. Of course, Amanda Galbraith is the principal at Navigator and also was a key staffer in the mayor's office during John Tory's tenure. So you know a lot about the mayor's budgets, as it were, and what goes into these. But the pressure this year for Olivia Chow, facing this $1.8 billion shortfall, potentially a 10.5%, maybe 16.5% property tax interest rate. What is going on behind the scenes now in a mayor's office at a time like this, leading up to the delivery of her budget, as it were?
I mean, they seem to have approached it a little differently than I think we did when I was in the mayor's office. Obviously, they've done this very elaborate theater of a staff-presented budget, followed by a budget committee-presented budget, followed by the mayor's budget, which we will see tomorrow. Now, the interesting part of that is the mayor has a hand in all of those things, right? They're being consulted by staff throughout the process. So it wasn't like she woke up in the morning and was like, whoa, 10.5, I can't believe that number, right? She's aware. And there seems to be a bit of a theater that's happening here, I think, to create pressure to hopefully get that money out of the federal government. As I mentioned, they want $250 million. So there'll be lots of late nights, lots of reviewing numbers last minute. I mean, the crazy thing is it's a $17 billion budget, and they're fighting with the police over like 12.9 million, right? Which is, candidly, is peanuts in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So I think a little bit of this there's some politics to it for sure. I think it's messier than we've seen in the past. So we'll see what that means in the end for Mayor Chow.
Yeah, and like you said, because she's had a hand in all of this, when we see what's coming out tomorrow, do you think it's going to be potentially, or historically, has it been potentially markedly different from what has already been sort of preordained, as it were? We've already kind of gotten accustomed to feeling in terms of numbers, like 10.5% type thing? I
mean, I don't know what they'll do. 10.5% to me just feels like a lot because it's a double digit. And there actually are ways when you're doing the budget, like they could have pushed off some COVID costs or whatever to reduce that. And they may choose to do so, right? What it looks like is they're presenting, as opposed to just eating the sausage at the end, we're seeing all of the sausage making in public, which is candidly there's a lot, I think, for all of us as Torontonians and taxpayers. So I think there will certainly be tweaks and changes. I mean, what this very lengthy process has allowed her to do is to evaluate public reaction and what's working and what's not. I do think at the end of the day, though, Torontonians are going to say the mayor has stuck us with a big tax increase, whether it's the federal levy or what, and she's not going to have her way out of that. And I think that will be a lasting impression of her administration.
Yeah, so what about that move on the federal levy, suggesting that there may be another 6% potentially on top of whatever tax increase there's going to be because of this $250 million for refugee and asylum seekers? What do you make of that posturing and positioning, sort of saying, hey, if the feds don't step up, you're going to be paying more? It's
a marked departure from how Mayor John Tory, which was very much behind the scenes, sort of nice, he was effective in getting money out of both the feds and the province. We actually saw a little bit of that touch with Mayor Chow and the Premier, right? That they got along well. There's laughs and hugs and whatever. And we've uploaded the gardener and there's extra millions. Taking a baseball bat to the Liberals, like brutally in public, is a very interesting tactic. every year the feds have come to the table with refugee funding. They will come to the table, I bet, with money. My bet is they're going to wait as long as possible, frankly, because they're angry about this public spat. And we've seen that with some of the MPs.
And you talk about this potentially, being a legacy of Mayor Chow. This is obviously only her first budget, indeed. But when you talk about double-digit hikes and things along those lines, getting beyond that, this is only $1.8 billion shortfall this year. There's still a couple more years of her term right now. I mean, this challenge isn't going away after tomorrow or after February 14th.
No, and it's a challenge, candidly, that's faced every mayor, from Mayor Ford to Mayor Tory, right? There's just an inability for the city to fund itself and the services it needs to provide with the tax base and the way that we collect money. Mayor Chow is choosing to make it very public and, frankly, lay it at the feet of the city and Torontonians to decide. Other politicians have chosen not to do that. And I think, candidly, probably politically, it's the easier thing to do. I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. I think it's a really messy gamble. And I think at the end of the day, she'll be painted as the person that raised taxes the most in Toronto history. And Godspeed to that when she runs for re-election. Right,
no kidding. Okay, Amanda Galbraith, we'll see what happens tomorrow from Navigator, of course, former Chief of Staff, not Chief of Staff, but of course, Communications Director with John Tory. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Well, today marks the beginning of Black History Month, and a new book is out that hopes to raise awareness about the contributions that Black Canadians have made in our country. So joining us live now in the studio is Jeff A.D. Martin, a youth advocate and also the author of Brothers from Canada, Sisters from Canada. Jeff, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you with us this morning.
I'm so glad to be here.
This book is pretty incredible. I read it yesterday, and I was telling you, I wish I had a book like this for East Asians when I was growing up, because I don't think there's a lot of literature out there for young people to see that representation matters. So what inspired you to write this two-in-one book?
Yes. Well, just like you said, not having the representation when I was growing up, I wanted to help to fill that void. Much of the information we get in regards to Black history often comes from the U.S. And there's a lot of great role models that we see there. However, there's people right here in Canada who have helped to build this country into what it is today. But unfortunately, many of their names are not listed in the history books. And so I wanted to bring some of these stories to life to show our young people that there are people who came before them who have done great things, and they can do the same thing.
For sure. I mean, we've heard, famous names, Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
We've heard, Willie O'Ree, famous hockey player, Donovan Bailey. But Rose Fortune, for example, in your book, she's the first woman law enforcer, in North America. And then, you have people in this book that are the first, Black millionaires in Canada, entrepreneurs, and of course Viola Desmond. My kids learn about her in school. But there are so many other people, like Doreen Lewis, who was the first Black woman to become mayor in Canada. So for this book, did you have to do your own research, and what did you learn in putting this book together?
Oh yeah, I had to dig deep because again, much of this information isn't just laying around. It's something you really I had to really go through and dig into in terms of just figuring this stuff out. But yeah, just finding so much information. The fact that Malcolm X, for example, his parents met and got married in Montreal. I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And they lived in Montreal prior to moving to the U.S. and then having Malcolm X and his siblings. I had no idea these things took place. I talk about Herb Trawick, who was the very first Black man to play in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. And this was because of the success that Jackie Robinson was having in Montreal in the exact same city. So the Montreal Alouettes decided to do the same thing. And Herb and Jackie Robinson became fast friends because of shared experiences. These are things I didn't know, I didn't see. And so again, hoping to bring some of these stories to life to give our kids an opportunity to see some of the greatness that has happened before them.
No, and there are so many connections that you have made, and it really shows that you're continuing that connection by sharing these stories, these legacies and contributions of people in the Black community that continue to have. And I love that you dedicated this book to your three sons, JJ, Chauncey, and K. I just want to read it because I think it's so sweet. To JM, CM, and KM, I lay this groundwork for you as your grandparents laid it for me. Stand tall, young kings. You stand on the shoulders of generations of giants. When your kids read your work, what do they say? What do they feel? What do they ask you?
Well, they're excited to see Daddy come out with yet another book. They're excited to see the work that I've been doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, along with being an author, I've been a speaker for the last number of years. And I take them along when I can so they can see the work that I do. Because I want them to know that life is not just about you. It's about helping and serving others. And finding your own special way with your gift, whatever it is that you have, that you're good at, to use that to help others to become better. And so my kids are ecstatic every time I have another book idea and I produce another book. Or again, when I take them to some of my speaking engagements, it gives them a chance to see what Daddy's really up to.
Yeah, and you're setting such a beautiful example for them, and you're going to BC on kind of a tour with this book, right?
I am, yeah. So I have over 30 presentations booked for February, more presentations than days of the month, and I'm spending a lot of it within Ontario, and then the last week of February, I'm going out to British Columbia to tour out there through schools. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, and we're looking at footage of you and Vince Carter. What's the story behind that photo?
Yeah, so many years ago, I used to do some work with the Toronto Raptors. Years later, I went back to a game. I got a chance to reconnect with Vince, and I gave him a copy of my first book to give to his children. Because he spent so much time here in Toronto, of course. You know, there's a piece of Toronto with him, and I wanted him to pass it on to his own children.
Yeah, and you wrote books about, you know, people in the Toronto community, heroes in the community.
Absolutely.
Brothers from the Six, sisters from the Six.
Yes.
Are those the titles of the books?
That's right, yeah.
So
same idea, just trying to show the people here who are doing amazing things. Many of them don't get to be on TV and to share their story like some of the great basketball players or football players, but people right here in Toronto and of course in Canada are doing things every day to make a difference.
Amazing work. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm
Take
grateful.
care.
You too as well.
Cheers.
Hey, the Reclaws are here!
Thank goodness.
What a great way to wake up this morning.
What a lovely Friday.
And it's a whirlwind weekend for you. Thank you so much for joining us. There is so much to talk about, so we'll get to it first. I want to talk about your new single. First of all, I love the title, I Grew Up on a Farm. This is a dream of mine. I wish I grew up on a farm. I really do. I love that serene, quiet life. What was it like growing up on a farm?
It wasn't serene. It was serene, but it wasn't quiet.
Oh, it was
for
not
sure.
your typical farm.
Yeah.
It was a hobby farm, if you will. It was open weekends in October to the public.
Right.
It no longer exists, sadly, but it was called the Yeehaw Adventure Farm. Our whole family put on hillbilly accents weekends in October for 10 years, and yeah, it was a pretty big staple in Ontario for a while.
But let's talk about the name, right? How fabulous is that name? Yeehaw Adventure Farm. But it provided a stage for you to perform.
It did. It was like where we started to get our footing, where we started to learn to entertain people and get over the nerves a little bit. It definitely created the Reclaws, but yeah, it's where it all started.
And I love the single because you were able to collaborate with friends. And talk to me a little bit about the process of putting this song together.
Yeah, it's the first time ever that we've wrote a song within a month and put a song out within that month of writing it.
Yeah.
We usually sit on songs for years, couple years, and discuss it, and production needs to be right and everything, and just right from the day we made it, the demo was right, and our team was like, this is just so you guys, it feels so right for this time of year and your next project and your next season, so let's do it. And
we wrote it with our best friends, which is the coolest part. These people get us, they understand us as people, and
Scott Hellman's Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a amazing songwriter. You wouldn't think a pop writer can write country, but he can.
No, Scott is super talented.
Yeah.
So that must have been a fun process because you were able to get your friends involved in this as well.
Yes, it's so cool. It was just hanging out, and then we wrote a song, and now it's coming out on the radio. So.
And I've got to say, country music, I've always known the fan base has been strong and has been there from day one, but it's just so incredible to see country music take off to where it is with the masses.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, actually. It's cool to be a part of it. It's cool to be country artists during this time because we're seeing it everywhere, and we're just lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, this song definitely has a lot to do with being country before country was cool. So any of our fans that loved us in the beginning, thank you. Country's officially now the cool thing to like. So
I've always felt like country is cool. One day I want to get a farm and hang out with the animals. That would be a dream come true for me. Talk about dream come true. You're singing the national anthem for the NHL All-Star Game.
We are.
No pressure, eh?
No pressure.
Yeah. It's going to be great. We're really excited. It's such an honor, and to be a part of this is pretty crazy. I mean, we grew up playing pond hockey on our pond, on our farm.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to have this opportunity and to be in Toronto is like so close to our hometown, so it's cool.
Never thought that I'd be singing for Justin Bieber. I thought it'd be the other way around, but
Is that a lot of pressure to have Justin Bieber and Michael Bublé there in the audience?
Yeah, they're like pretty good singers, right?
Yeah, they're okay.
No, it'll be great. It's gonna be so fun.
But you've sang the anthem before, but never to this degree, and at Scotiabank Arena.
Yes, first time in Scotiabank for the Rec Laws, so this is a massive bucket list for us.
Huge.
You're telling me you have a very early morning sound check. How do you
checks?
warm up the voice for that?
Just straight coffee.
See, that's what I say, right?
Yeah, you got to get fired up quickly
Yeah.
and then bring the energy.
And so then how do you warm up for it? Are there any little things that you do before you hit the stage?
Oh, there's all sorts of crazy little stretches and whatnot you gotta do. You gotta grab every muscle in your neck and relax it beforehand.
Yeah.
It's very,
Really?
it's a process.
And we're going a cappella tomorrow, so we have to practice hitting that note and remembering it and then stepping out on the carpet and singing it.
Can you give us a little taste
of the
a cappella? Just one line.
Anybody got an A flat? I don't know.
Honestly, we can't.
No,
I need to hear it.
Yeah, just the oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Canada.
Beautiful.
That's all I got.
There you go.
Yeah, a special CP24 brew. So listen, have fun this weekend. I'm so happy for all your success. And for anybody who wants information, thereclaws.com. We're going to listen to your new single. Should we dance? Sure. Let's do it
let's
again.
get up.
Here we go. Once again, I grew up on a farm with the Rec Laws.
Thanks for having us.
We love CP24.
Blue jeans might be ripped, but that ain't how I bought them.
Fuck it.
It ain't 'cause of these boots. I'm sticking out like a damn sore thumb.